How you going, guys? Hybradge here. Today's video is going to be about invading. It's slow paced with a lot of visual examples, but I promise you, if you bear with me for the entire 22 minutes of this video, by the end of it, you're going to understand everything you need to know about invading and become twice the player. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. Okay, so the first topic I want to talk about is why do you actually want to go for these invades? Now, the most self-explanatory reason, which is the reason I'm sure you guys all understand, is that it puts you in a better position to carry. Why? Because you get more gold, you get more XP, you can buy stronger items, you have a stronger influence in the game, and that makes a lot of sense, right? However, that being said, I think there are two major reasons that people often forget when going for these invades. The first reason is that invading puts enemy junglers behind. Now, let's say you're playing Jarvan, and the enemy jungler is playing Gwen. Okay, when he hits 3 items, he's Thanos. When you hit 3 items, you're strong, but you're nowhere near what she is in the game, right? She has a much stronger influence on the game. So how do you leverage your stronger early game prowess over her? How do you use that to win the game? Well, what you can do is by invading, you delay her item spikes, right? You make the window she has to impact the game that much smaller. So if she has delayed item spikes and you have earlier item spikes, she does have the ability to contest you on objectives, like for example Drake, right? Which gives you the ability to get Dragon Soul before she even comes online, which is a way of effectively winning the game for Invade. Now, whilst this concept of putting the enemy jungle behind is particularly important against hard to game champions, I think just against junglers in general, delaying their item spikes and putting them behind is just very conducive and important in winning a game. The third reason to go for an invade is to force early action. Now you might be wondering, why is forcing early action advantageous? Now let's imagine enemy mid is a Caston. When he hits level 16, he will 1v9 the game. Okay, so by the time he hits 16, you want two things. You want either to have won the game, or you want to have almost won the game, right? So how do you do that? Now, by invading, you're forcing the Caston to make two decisions. One, he either has to force his jungler to give up the camp, right? His jungler is going to fall behind, you're going to go ahead. We talked about this already. Or two, Caston is going to be forced to take a skirmish while he's weak. Now, what a Caston wants to do is just chill, not do anything until level 16. He just wants to be able to farm. He doesn't want any kills to happen, right? Ideally. Nothing's happening in the game. He's just allowed to free farm. By forcing him into this early skirmish, you're taking him out of his comfort zone and you're exploiting him where he's the weakest. Now, while the second and third reason do sound similar, the second reason is targeting the enemy jungler specifically. The third reason is attacking the whole enemy comp as a whole. So, okay, so if they have an entirely scaling team comp, then invading to force early action is very important. I think both the second and third reasons are often neglected, which is why champions like Zeri and Caston are even viable in the first place, right? If you look at high elo, where people know how to exploit these champions and punish these champions for invading, these champions' win rates are much lower than they are in lower elos. So in addition to putting yourself ahead, putting the enemy behind and punishing them is just as good of a reason to invade. Now that we understand why you go for invades, I think it's important to understand what you lose when going for these invades. I know some of you boys study economics, so the economic term for that is what are the opportunity costs of going for invades, right? The most important one is attention to your lanes, right? But when you spend time going for invades, you can also equally spend that time to help your lanes, right? This could be ganking or this could be fixing wave states. The second opportunity cost, which I think is important to talk about, is attention to your own camps, right? I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about this. Never put too much emphasis on invading, because if you forget to clear your own camps, it doesn't matter, because you're just leveling up the enemy camps. So when they clear it, it's going to be a higher level, and despite you farming double the amount of camps, you guys could still be even in XP, right? So it's important to understand that only invading enemy camps is not feasible, okay? It's important to farm your own camps. In a second, we'll talk a bit more about how to balance farming your own camps and invading enemy camps, and how you can actually remove this opportunity cost as a whole and get a perfect invade off. Okay, so now knowing the opportunity cost for invading and why you invade, I want to talk a bit more about who should invade, right? Okay, so this game, it's a professional game I played. Obviously, I'm hybrid here, right? I'm playing Jarvan into Skarner. If you look at enemy comp, they've got a few carries, and here you'll see Skarner makes a play. Okay, so we'll just show the play Skarner makes. Okay, so Skarner makes a play here. Actually, I'll mute the commentary. So Skarner makes a play here, right? And I know that his wolves, I can go take his wolves right now. You can see me. I'm right here, right? I'm Jarvan, I'm here. I can go take the wolves because I know he cleared top to bot. So I know if he is here, right, he will not be there for wolves, and I can take the wolves away, right? So that's something I can do. I can choose to do that, right? I'm playing Jarvan to Skarner. So let's see what I get from invading, right? We talked about the 3 reasons to invade. First, it's to put ourselves ahead, right? Does me being ahead influence this game in any way? I mean, of course it does, right? I get more resources, I get my eclipse faster, maybe I can carry the game, right? Maybe I can carry the game. But if you look at enemy team comp, they have Skarner and Rel. Both are good at shutting down carries, right? So getting myself more resources isn't that good because I'm melee into a melee countering team, right? They have Wei, they have Jace, they have a lot of poke. So putting myself ahead isn't really that important, right? Then the second reason is putting enemy Skarner, is putting this guy behind important. Not really, right? Like, even if I put Skarner behind, he's still going to have a billion CC. He's still going to be useful. That's why he's a very good comp champion, right? So it doesn't matter. Putting him behind doesn't matter, okay? So you see here, even though I can go for the invade, look what I do here. I take the dragon. Because this dragon is better for the team, right? Like, I'm not the carry this game. I'm a setup champion this game, right? My carries are these three. These three, right? I'm not the carry this game. So, even though you can go for invades, sometimes you have to ask yourself, do I even want to go for these invades? Or is ganking more important, right? Or is taking objectives more important? These are opportunity costs for going for invades that are probably sometimes more important than the invade itself. So it's always important to ask yourself, am I a carry or am I a setup champion, right? And the answer isn't the same every game, right? This game, I'm playing Jarvan. Even though Jarvan, some people say is like a carry champion, right? In this game, I'm not a carry champion because their champs completely counter me. Look at these champs. These champs all counter me, right? I can't be good into this comp. So then it's important to ask myself, okay, if I'm not a carry champion, should I even invade? Or should I just play for my lanes? And right here, what I'm doing, going for this dragon, is playing for the lanes. Going for that invade here, whilst it puts me a bit further ahead, it doesn't really do much for me, okay? So I think before even invading, it's important to assess if you're even achieving any of the goals of invading we talked about before. And to do that, you need to ask yourself, are you the win con? Is enemy jungle the win con? Are objectives the win con where you should be taking them over invading? Or are your laners or enemy laners the win con where you should be ganking them instead of invading? Okay, now that we've talked about whether you should invade, I think it's important to talk about the most important part of the video, which is how you invade, right? I'm sure this is the part which most of you guys came to see, so let's jump into it, okay? So in my opinion, when you're invading, the most important thing that you need to have is a numbers advantage. It's actually that simple. If you have a numbers advantage, most of the time, it's going to be a good invade, right? But the hard part is identifying when you'll have a numbers advantage, okay? So I just want you to take a look at this. This scenario is probably the most common one you'll see when it comes to invading. It's when you get priors, okay? So what I mean by priors is your teammates having a good wave state to be able to move to help you, and them being able to move to help you, okay? Now, those are two different things, right? Having the wave state to be able to move to you, okay? Usually, when they have a good wave state, where's the wave going to be? Okay, I'll give you guys 2 seconds. You can pause the video here right now. The wave is going to be at the tower, okay? So the wave will be here if it's good wave state, okay? And you'll see here, we just speed it up a bit. This is a good wave state, right? Now, that's easy enough to understand. But whether they can move is a completely different concept, okay? So where they can move depends on a whole lot of factors, okay? Number one, are they in a good condition to move, right? What do I mean by condition? I mean, like, do they have enough mana? Like, so if they come to the fight, are they just going to be naked auto-attacking when they're a friggin', like, let's say they're a Syndra. Are they going to be completely naked and just come here and auto-attack? Will that be useful? No, right? Do they have high enough HP, right? Let's say if you're a 1 HP Kiana, can you come and be useful in the fight if you're 1 HP? No. Okay, so the important thing to think about is condition, right? The second thing to think about, which is a lot more difficult, and it's something that almost no player thinks about until you reach GM and Challenger, is do they have a lot of gold on them? Okay, so it's important to identify that, and it's kind of a hard thing to identify at the start, but if you practice it a bit more, or if you just use a bit more logic, you'll be able to identify it, okay? The easy way to identify is just by looking at their items, right? When at around 10 minutes, or 5 minutes, or 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, you and your laners shouldn't have that much of a gold difference, right? You should know whether they need a reset or not. It's not that hard to know, right? Let's say if they're 8 minutes and they're sitting on the Doran's Blade, do they need a reset? Hey, if they don't, we're finna be in trouble, okay? They'll need a reset then. So it's quite easy to identify whether they can help you or not. Okay, but it's a very important distinction. Prior doesn't only mean that they have a good wave state. It also means that they have a good wave state and they can move to help you, all right? So they don't need to base for anything. Okay, so if you look here, you just look at this invade, right? Why am I able to go for this invade here when nobody's showing a bot lane, right? A Zed is dead, right? But my Kiana is also bot, so it's kind of even. So it's pretty much could be a 4v4, right? But because my teammates can come and help me, look at my Jax's wave. He's already pushed this in. He's walking towards me. My Rel and Ashe, they've pushed it in, right? If I'm in trouble, I can just walk back into Jax and they can come help me around here, right? So I'm not right here. I have good prior. My laners have prior, which allows for me to go for the invade here, right? So this is the most typical example of an invade, right? You have priors, so you can invade. Okay, so the second situation in which you can go for an invade, which is a bit more of a difficult situation, is when the jungler is off tempo. So what off tempo means is it pretty much means that you're not at your camps when they spawn. Okay, so you're spending your tempo to do something else that is not clearing. Now, one common misconception with people is that they always think being off tempo is bad. Oh, I should always be on tempo. I should always be clearing my camps. Incorrect. Being off tempo is oftentimes good if you're off tempo for the correct reasons. Okay, so in this game, it's the same exact game, but this time I'm the guy getting invaded, right? So here, instead of going to and doing a full clear, right, you can see I've got all my camps up, Some would say doing these grubs are bad, but I think grubs are OP, so I disagree with that, right? But I've got all my camps up. Am I on or off tempo right now? Obviously, I'm off tempo because I'm not there doing my camps as they spawn, right? So what this Zed recognizes is that he recognizes I'm on grubs, right? Because they had vision on me before. What he decides to do is he goes for this invade because he knows, again, look, he has prior bot, he has prior mid, and he knows I'm off tempo, right? I mean, this bot lane state is somewhat contestable, but he knows I'm off tempo, so he knows I can't be here to contest him, right? So this is a good example of how you can punish invades off tempo, despite him being weaker than me, right? Despite Jocko being weaker than me, he can still invade because I'm off tempo. Okay, and the same exact, because I think being off tempo is a bit more of a complicated situation. I think this is also a good example. Okay, so now I'm doing the invading, right? It's like here. Let's go back 15 seconds because the replay is bugged. Okay, so here we will see. We know that Zed is bot side, right? And right now, it doesn't take a genius to know that he's going to go for this dive, right? So I know he's going to go for this dive. So again, instead of me being off tempo this time, Zed's being off tempo, right? Because he's not there for his blue buff as it spawns. Agree? So Zed being off tempo, how do I punish it? I can go for an invade. Now look here, like I don't have priors, right? It's like this is not a good invade. In most cases, right? Right now, this is a bad invade because I don't have priors, right? Except for the fact that Zed is off tempo. So who's going to fight me on this blue buff? The Orin? Yeah, sure, Orin can fight me, but he's half HP, right? Vex can come fight me, but Kiana can also come here and it's a 3v2, right? If everyone comes. So even though I don't have priors, because the enemy jungle is off tempo, I'm able to invade his camps, okay? So the two scenarios in which you can invade is one, either if you have priors, like the Zed invaded me just then, or like I invaded the Zed just then, or two, if the enemy jungle is off tempo and the enemy team can't do anything about it, right? Because if they move, even though your laners are going to be a bit later, it's a 3v2. You're not going to get one shot, right? So in the extended fight, they will lose, so they can't contest you on the invade, okay? So those are two situations. And if you notice, in both situations, you have a numbers advantage. Now, obviously, having a numbers advantage isn't the be-all, end-all, right? Like, there are exceptions to the rule where, let's say, if there's a monster-fed Hecarim, like, even if you're 3v2, he's going to completely cook you guys, right? So you do have to watch out for that. But in general, this number advantage rule is going to apply to most of your games, and definitely the first 10 minutes of every game you play. Okay, now that we've talked about how you should invade, I think it's important to talk about when you should invade. And as I said, it's how you balance between clearing your own camps and clearing the enemy camps. And this is probably the most complicated part of the video. So you're gonna have to sit tight with me, and I'm jumping onto Rift Kit to explain this. Okay, so pretty much you want to invade when most of your camps are down. Why? Because one, that means the enemy jungle can counter invade, right? Let's say you go into invaded here. He invades here. This is like so common in the lower elos, right? This happens. Like you invade one side, they invade the other side, right? If you finish all your camps and then invade, that means they don't have a countermeasure to it, okay? Two, what it also means is after you clear, if all your camps are down, it means you are currently in downtime, right? You have spare time. So you're not expending anything other than the opportunity cost we talked about before. You're not expending anything going for these invades, right? If your camps are up and you're going for it, that meant that you're not leveling your camps. You're not resetting your camps. So you're just resetting enemy camps for free. Okay, if you're doing it when your camps are down, you've already reset your camps. You just have some spare time where you can go for the invade, therefore maximizing both the XP and the gold income you're getting. Now, it might sound hard to invade after full clear. It might sound hard to do that, right? Because what if, like, let's say you mirror it. Okay, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And this is what enemy does. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say do 5, 6. Right? This is how you should do it, right? So let's say both junglers start off the game with a full clear. How can I invade your hybridge? How can I invade? Like, how do I go here? Well, it's impossible to do it on the first clear, right? Unless you're playing Karthus. If you're playing Karthus, if you're playing Karthus, you can always clear in time to invade this, right? Same thing for Zyra. You can clear in fast enough to invade this, right? If enemy is playing like something that clears slow, like for example, a Skarner or a or Gwen right now, right? Because Gwen's nerfed. Then you can invade that, right? But otherwise, hybrid? How do I actually get this invade off, right? And the answer is people don't always just full clear. That's just the truth. Most junglers in the game do not full clear. Why? Because they want to go for ganks, right? Let's say, I'll show you a visual example of this in a second, right? But let's say enemy junglers finishes full clear, he resets and he goes top, okay? After 6, he resets. So after this, he resets and he goes top, okay? He fights. He's here. Let's say he spends 30 seconds fighting here, right? And then he spends like 15 seconds here. Okay, he's 45 seconds. So because this camp will spawn 2 minutes, it's either 2 minutes and 50 or 2 minutes and 30 after he kills it, right? He's going to be 15 seconds late for this camp because he spent 45 seconds looking for a gank and taking Scuttle Crab, right? You, on the other hand, you take the Scuttle Crab here and then you reset, which means you're here on time, okay? So he's 15 seconds late to Grump, you're 15 seconds early to your Krugs, right? Which means that if you do this and this, you can do 2, 3, and 4 again. You can go look for an invade. Now, I did say you want to full clear in to look for an invade, right? Sometimes you can skip one camp if it is at the end of your clear. So what do I mean by at the end of your clear? So depending on which side you clear to, it's either your Grump or your Krugs. These are the 2 best camps to skip, okay? These are the only 2 camps you can skip, actually. You can almost never skip your Wolves. Well, you can, but it's very complicated. And it's not really applicable. It's applicable in like challenge or in pro play. But in solo queue, just remember, if you're going to skip a camp, always either skip the first camp or the last camp. Okay, and you want to look for an invade. So here, I'm going to skip the 4th camp. Okay, so this is my last camp on my clear. I'm going to skip my Grump. I'm going to look for an invade instead. Why? Because this enemy jungler is 15 seconds later his first camp, which means he's going to be 15 seconds later this camp, which gives me time to take my camp and still take his camp, right? And a visual, and you'll be like, okay, I don't really make sense. Can you show me a visual example? I got you, boy. Just look at this, okay? So, this game. Let's go back a bit, okay? So, I finished my full clear. Enemy Diana's finished her full clear. Look what happens, okay? So, what does she do? She spends time going for a Renekton gank, right? This is the exact sample I just showed you. Actually perfect, right? And what can I get from it? Because I'm 15 seconds before her on my wolf camp, right? I'm also going to have time to be here while she's here. And as I said before, look at my powers. My Zed has power, so he can move here. My bot lane has power, so she can move there. Why is this a good invade? How is this a good invade? You'll see here. We get the camper, we get the kill, right? So it's kind of the easiest way to decide when you want to invade is after a full clear. Now, you can skip one camp on the full clear. It can either be the first camp or the last camp. But pretty much, you want most of your camps to be down when you invade. That is like the golden rule. Do not invade when most of your camps are up. If you invade when most of your camps are up, make sure that you can do that. Make sure that after you invade, you instantly go back to your camps. Okay? So what I mean by that is, let me reload this. So if you, let's say, and this can work as well, by the way. You can do this. It's more difficult, but you can definitely do it, okay? Let's say enemy jungler started Raptors, okay? Let's say he started Raptors. But he spends like 30 seconds extra on here. And you're like, okay, well, if I do a full clear, like, I'm sorry, Botta, okay? If I do a full clear, then I'm not going to be able to invade him, right? Because he started here. Well, what you can do is you can go take his camp first and then do your full clear. That also works. That also, so you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this is also fine to do, but what you have to make sure is that after you invade, you can't spend like time ganking and then spend time like doing something like dancing in the river or like just messing about with the enemy jungle, you have to go back to your own clear. Otherwise, what ends up happening is what you're doing pretty much is leveling up this guy's camp. And if let's say you go for a gank here, or if you go for a gank here, which these are unlikely ganks, okay? If they're certain ganks, then sure, go for them. They're great, right? But most ganks you're going to go for are probably a little bit unlikely, right? If they're unlikely ganks and you don't get anything done, what ends up happening is you just level up his camp for free. So the next time, let's say he does the same thing, right? Like, let's say you guys both mess around for like 2 minutes and 15 seconds, okay? You guys both mess around for 2 minutes, 15 seconds. He will be clearing, let's say this is a level 4 cap, okay? 4, 4, we'll say this is 4 just to make it easy. 6, 4, 4. You're going to be clearing 4, 4. You're pretty much going to clear 4s over the board, right? He's going to have pretty much the same XP, even though you clear double the camps, okay? So every time you invade, you need to make sure you go back to your own camps right away, if you're doing it this way. But as I said, the easiest way to do it is just go full clear, maybe skip a camp if you need to, into invades. That is the golden rule. But you can kind of adapt it if you need to. Now, we've kind of covered all bases with regards to invading, but there are a few more general tips I think it's important that you guys know. Number one, if you get to choose what camps to invade, you always want to invade the red or blue, because it gives you the most stats, and it also gives you the most XP and gold, okay? So, other than Krugs gives you more, but red buff and blue just give you so much XP, and they're so strong and so good for skirmishes that it's very important to take. Number two, you almost never want to invade on the first clear. However, this rule does change if it's after your first clear, okay? The reason you don't want to invade after the first clear is because it's hard to invade the same camps after this on the second clear. So, what you end up doing is just leveling the enemy camps. So usually you tend to not want to invade on the first clear. I promise you, it's a lot more stable if you just full clear once and then look for invades right after, whether it be after your second clear or just before your second clear. Third thing is watch out for invading junglers that are very far ahead, okay? Because let's say even if you stay strict to the rules, right, you invade with a numbers advantage, if they are mega strong, those rules sometimes don't apply, okay? Like there are exceptions to the rule when the enemy jungler is super strong, okay? That brings us to the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all. If you enjoyed the video, give me a like, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate that. Also, join the Discord. You can always ask me questions there regarding this video or anything League related. I'll always be there to answer. Also, I do coaching, so if you ever wanna get coached, just hit me up on Discord. The prices aren't that high. They're very affordable. But yeah, I appreciate you a lot, and peace. Have a good day.